Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Benchwarmer Sports Podcast. Raffi here, joined by Davian. Davian, we have quite a bit to get to. The Super Bowl has happened, so we're going to talk about that. I know you're not too thrilled about the result, but anyways, we're going to talk about that. And then we'll also talk about the NFL offseason, do a little preview of that, talk about some of the bigger questions that are going to be coming up, and just overall do like a little bit of a diagnosis on what's likely are the key questions that are going to be happening this offseason. So, Davian, I'm doing great. I know you're going to ask me anyways, but I'm doing great. The U.S. has been fantastic. Hopefully, you've been not thinking too much, dreading too much this Patriots loss as you've had some time now to kind of sulk, think about it. Hopefully, not see Drake May get sacked a couple more times since the game ended. But I'll hand it over to you, Davian. How are you? How are things? I can kind of assume how you're doing, but then again, you also went to Brazil for a week, so hopefully you're feeling a little bit better right now at this point.
Rafi, seeing Drake May sad made me sad. And it continues to make me sad to have had to witness that. Because how can you have a guy like Drake May be sad? Um and he shouldn't have been sad because he shouldn't have lost. That game was the Patriots could have won if they just adjusted their game plan on offense. And that just didn't happen. And if our offensive line actually used their arms, maybe we could have actually won the game. But no, Rafi, that did not happen. The Patriots' offensive line was non existent. In some ways, I think Drake May was seeing ghosts at points. Put it point blank. He got very rushed at the end of the game. He started forcing the ball uncharacteristically. The wide receivers suck. They were just not getting open. Granted, though, the Seahawks defense is very, very good. Their defensive line is, I think, the best in the NFL at the current point in time. Their secondary is very good. It's good enough. It does the job, right? Because when you have a defensive line that's that good, your secondary doesn't really need to be that good because when you're only pressuring with four people and are able to get to the QB time and time again, and you have these speedy corners that are just can randomly blitz at times, it's just like your defense is just really that good. With that being said, Rafi, though, um, I come from this perspective as someone who is watching the game with wanting to see a certain team win. Rafi, you watch this game wanting neither team to win. But still, that being said, what did you think of the Seahawks? Are they going where would you rank the Seahawks amongst the past Super Bowl winners? Where against the Chiefs, the Eagles, the 49ers, well, 49ers? Well, either way, the other teams in the past few years.
Yeah. The 49ers losing a couple Super Bowls. Technically not Super Bowl champions.
Right,
They
yeah,
haven't
I
won a
know, I
Super
know.
Bowl
But
since
they've been
around the
there like
Cowboys.
and
But
they're
still,
they're like a very good team, like in that sense.
yeah.
That
And first I'll just say too, for an area that loves Sweet Caroline, reaching out, touching me, touching you, the Patriots offensive line did not reach out at all, as you mentioned.
no,
They
no,
kind of
no.
Will Campbell, the short arm allegations really were not doing him any favors.
Kind of came out.
Yeah, that was he had his rookie moment and it was at the worst possible time to have a rookie moment, but he's still really young. He's basically my age, so I can't be saying like, "Oh, he's washed." Like he's not going to
Yeah,
amount to anything because I'm like
yeah.
that's kind of counterintuitive. Look at me right now. That'd be kind of that'd be kind of foolish, a little silly if I was dragging down a person who was literally the same age as I am. But I would put, and again, it's hard in the moment to compare a team to other teams because I feel like when you see a team that was as dominant on the defensive side of the ball as the Seahawks, it's easy to get just like that. This is one of the best defenses we've seen in the NFL. But if you think about things over the scope of the last 10 to 15 years, I think you can make a very good argument that this Seattle Seahawks defense is maybe it doesn't have the vibe or the aura of some of these teams, but I would put them pretty close, if not in the same category as the 2015 Denver Broncos, the 2013 Legion of Boom Seattle Seahawks. I don't think that's a crazy argument to say that
No.
this Seahawks defense this year was at that level. And for the Patriots, too, Drake May did look rough against some of the other top five defenses in the playoffs. Now, the Broncos defense is arguably one of the second best defense or third best defense, but again, the conditions were so poor where you can't really judge too much of Drake May and just the offense's play during that because the weather conditions were just what they were. But the Chargers and Texans defense, I'd also say, are around top five, top 10 units. And Drake May did struggle a fair bit with those defenses. And then going to the best defense in the NFL, it was clear that it was too much for him. The lights were too bright. Again, as you mentioned, the Patriots offense just didn't make good adjustments. They weren't able to do it. And we saw that he was forcing a lot of things late. He threw a couple of bad timely picks. And I think first off, to put a bow on the Seattle Seahawks defense, this was one of the best defenses we've seen in the past 10, 15 years. I don't think that's really too much of a debate. We can debate who's the best, etc. But from a pure defensive unit, I'd say you can make a good argument that it's a top 10 unit over the past 10 to 15 years. And then we can discuss where, etc. But overall, I'd say top 10. Moving over to the
Yeah.
Patriots, the big thing, the big difference between this Patriots team, it felt like, and past Patriots teams in the Super Bowl was that experience factor, where it felt like in the past, when the Patriots when things weren't rolling, Tom Brady would lead the Patriots down the field, score a touchdown. They would get the ball back, he'd score again, and just pull off miracles just to
Yeah.
get back to within a close game. Either win the game or in the fashion versus the Eagles, you come up a little short. The Giants as well, you come up a little short. But anyways, you're never out of the game with Tom Brady as your quarterback. And Drake May, you kind of got those instances where he was starting to, towards the fourth quarter, hit some close throws, kind of dink and dunk, get a couple first downs, and you're like, oh shoot, the Patriots are back. Drake May is going to somehow lead this team to a crazy comeback. They're not out of it yet, blah, blah, blah. And where Tom Brady would continue to lead his team down the field, you saw Drake May, partially because the offensive line just kept breaking down. It felt like his mind sped up a little too much. He went a little too into hero ball mode, and when things were going well, he would just say, "You know what? Screw it. Mac Hollins has to be down there." Would chuck the ball down
Yeah.
the field, and it would get intercepted. And that happened on two separate occasions late in the game, where an experienced quarterback like a Tom Brady, not to be Chris Collinsworth, but a Patrick Mahomes, etc., Aaron
Yeah.
Rodgers would drive the team down the field methodically and score a touchdown. It felt like Drake May still lacked some of that experience of, okay, I don't need to get everything in one play. I can keep working the ball down the field. I have time on my side. It felt like either because of the pressure inside the pocket or just overall the clock and the moment got to him a little bit. It just felt like he was a little too sped up, and I think that led to a couple of mistakes that he'll be better in the future in those instances, but for the first time, I think you could expect that from really anyone, the moments, the decisions that he made.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that, and that was a bit of my concern kind of heading into the playoffs. A rookie quarterback, no, not a rookie quarterback, but a QB who's going to the playoffs for the first time. It's a concern. It's hard. Like even Sam Darnold, like he already had some playoff experience, So for Drake May, I think that this is just a growing moment. He will definitely, become get more into his own. But even my dad, who never watches football, said, it seems like the Patriots just thought he was Tom Brady when he's just not. And I think in many cases that's true. Like I did not see a change in the game plan from Mike Vrabel at all to accommodate for Drake May. What made the Patriots special was that they constantly built around Brady for Brady. Yeah, they didn't have like the star and flashy players at times, but they had consistent players that Brady would look out for, whether it was Wes Welker or Gronk or Edelman. There was constantly someone that he could look out for, and he knows that would be open. Drake May hasn't really had that to that extent. Stephon Diggs, maybe, I guess, but after Diggs, it gets kind of tough when you look at this team. So, look, they have a lot of money in free agency. I think this is a team that we'll see back in the Super Bowl within the next 5 years, most likely. And as a Pats fan, I'm incredibly excited. I mean, the Patriots were not supposed to get out. They, you know, get to the Super Bowl, but they did. And I'm incredibly excited for the Seahawks team, though. Rafi, ESPN ranks this Super Bowl team as the third best in the entirety of the NFL history. Third best. They rank this because of their toughness of schedule, their offensive ranking, which was like mid, their special teams ranking, which I mean we saw that special teams; those punts were insane, and of course having a very incredibly elite defense. What I'll say to that ranking is I think that's Rafi, pardon my French, bullshit. I mean, in reality, is that there's so many other teams that were better than the Seahawks team. And what I mean by that is offensively, they did not show flashes outside of the run game in many ways. Sam Darnold got the job done that he needed to get done. But that offense is not something that screams to me third best in the NFL history. That defense was very good, very good. But it was really just that defensive line that got to Drake May. When May had the time to throw the ball, he especially I guess kind of like before the fourth quarter in many ways, he was able to find people. And that because their secondary wasn't elite to that extent. So that those are my thoughts. Really, I think that this Seahawks team is very well put together. Just methodically, the signings that they made, betting on a guy like Darnold, building around Darnold to an extent. The run game, I mean, wow, it's gonna be a tough next few months on to decide what you do in free agency. But it's an exciting team in many ways, and especially as Sam Darnold continues to find his own, and they continue to improve that offense. JSN is an absolute beast, and I mean, so is Christian Gonzalez. I have to mention Gonzo on the Pats. I mean, this guy is probably going to be making $40 million a year coming up, and he deserves every single penny. He was, in my opinion, if the Pats would win the Super Bowl, I would have been voting for Gonzalez to win Super Bowl MVP. He played lights out against JSN and Rashid. So, those are my kind of final thoughts, I guess, on the game.
Yeah, and Christian Gonzalez, I absolutely agree. He quite literally kept the Patriots in this game for as long as he possibly could have, and it was a really good defensive battle, especially in that first half into the third quarter, where the Patriots defense was doing everything and anything, bend but not break defense. They kept giving the Seahawks field goals, which was perfectly fine. They literally kept the offense in the game, because this game, if it wasn't for Christian Gonzalez and the defense, could have gone away from the Patriots. We would have not even had this conversation about Drake May getting the Patriots within like a little bit of striking distance and just not being able to finish the job if it wasn't for how great this defense was. And to talk about the fact that the Seahawks were ranked third out of all-time Super Bowl winners, I can already say I would take that Seahawks team in 2013 over them. I would take that Broncos team in 2015 over them. That offense wasn't as good as it was the year before, but still, I would say the offense was better than the Seahawks offense, and I'd say that defense was better than this year's Seahawks defense. And then there's so many other really good teams. You have the Niners and Cowboys, respective dynasty years. Those are always really good. Some of those Patriots teams defensively, I think either around when, I think in Tom Brady's earlier years, they had some really good defenses. I think 2008 or 2007, one of those 2000 Super Bowls, the Patriots had a fantastic defense and a really good offense as well too. So I would say it's hard to say definitively that the Seahawks are top 3. Maybe top 10 for sure. I'd say like probably top 15. But again, even look at the Eagles last year. That team was also really, really good too.
Yeah.
The Chiefs, when they won the Super Bowl with Mahomes, offensively fantastic. So I think if you're saying top three, I don't think that the Seahawks are third by a lot. But again, I would have some other teams in that conversation, if not higher than them personally. But that's just me. But let's get into some of these offseason questions, Davian. You already mentioned the Patriots, so we can talk about the Patriots a little bit more at one point. But we'll start with the Seahawks, who just came off winning the Super Bowl, obviously, as we just discussed. Davian, there's always the conversation about should you pay running backs and how much should you pay running back? And the Seahawks have Zach Charbonnet under contract still, and he had a really solid year again this year. Obviously got hurt and wound up missing the entire postseason due to a leg injury. Kenneth Walker, Super Bowl MVP, and throughout the whole postseason was clearly the Seahawks' most dynamic player, most valuable player on offense. I wouldn't say he's a top 10 running back. There are some injury concerns with him, but Davian, do you think that his postseason, how well that went for him, and how much value showed to the Seahawks is worthy of getting paid like a top 10 running back, which he likely would be this offseason? Should the Seahawks pay him or should they let him walk? Because I think they use the franchise tag on some of their other players, especially on defense, when you look at who's going to be expiring for them.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's a really tough question. I think when it comes to running backs, you kind of have to let him walk. I know how good he is, but uh, running backs are incredibly. I mean, I know that there's some running backs that are out there that are just so game changer ways that they are. Uh, you have to pay them the big bucks. I just don't think Kenneth Walker is really that guy like that. And if he is really going to command a lot of money, which I think he will in free agency, I don't think you could pay him, Rafi.
Yeah, absolutely, Davian. And again, when you look at their contracts, it's just you feel like they're likely like again, are you going to use a franchise tag on him? And you mentioned it too, where it's like if this is Christian McCaffrey, you pay him. Bijan Robinson, you pay him. Even Saquon Barkley, when he became a free agent, you pay him just because they're just in a tier of their own where you can't just replace them if they wind up leaving the door, walking out the door in free agency. So if you get a running back like one of those guys in that tier, it definitely makes sense to keep them. But Kenneth Walker, as I mentioned, I think we're both in agreement that it would be a very tough release for them, but it's probably in their best interest just with all of the players that they're going to have to retain. I would prioritize like Tariq Woolen. I would prioritize the guy like even Rashid Shaheed if he came in at a decent number for you, just for what he can bring to the special team side of things. I think that would also be worthy to bring back as well. I just think that the Seahawks have other priorities, and unfortunately, Kenneth Walker, for as great as the postseason was and as great of a year he had, I think unfortunately you just have to say we're really sorry, but you're gonna have to get if you want to get your bag, which he probably will, then he's gonna have to wind up going elsewhere. David, what's a question that you have as we enter this offseason?
I mean, what are the Raiders going to do? Honestly, that is a very big question. I think we have to ask because this is a team that just stinks all around. I mean, yeah, you're gonna go out, you're gonna get Mendoza. I understand that, but is that doesn't solve all of your problems in many ways. Like you still need to really build around him, and I don't know if they're really going to do that. What are they going to do when it comes to uh, Max Crosby? Are they gonna trade him? It's tough. Like it's a guy that's that good. I don't know if you can trade him. So just like a lot of questions for them. I'm just trying to pull up this report I was looking at the other day. It's I mean, you just read. There's so many holes in that team, and yeah, you can turn around a team within a year. It's possible. Look at the Patriots, what they've done, but they did not have this many holes. Like the defense was already there, but you got to revamp this offensive line. You can't feed Mendoza to the dogs. And the thing is that if you don't build around the offensive line, uh, you're just gonna risk Mendoza not being able to develop. But if you put all your money into one egg in one basket, which would be the offensive line, it's hard to really build around the defense that was at times like showed good signs. It's very young. It's very in that way, which is good. But a lot of questions for this Raiders team. Rafi, what do you think? Is this a team that can really make a turnaround with what they got, or is it going to be a struggle for them for a few years again?
I think the offensive line is the biggest thing that they're going to have to make upgrades for. And I would be, even at the cost of your defense getting worse, I think you need to do whatever you can to set up your young guys, Mendoza and Genti. in the best positions possible for them to succeed. Genty is a fantastic running back prospect, and he's going to be a fantastic running back in the NFL. You need to beef up the offensive line to support him because if you have a really good offense, that's taking away time that your defense is going to be out on the field. They're going to get less tired, and the defense is overall going to perform better, even if it's a little worse or takes a step back from last year. Max Crosby, if you're able to get 2 first round picks, with a first round pick being higher than 20 in that 15 to 20 range, maybe even a little better than that if you're able to, I think you do it. You use that pick to get one of the top wide receivers in the draft, one of the top offensive linemen, offensive tackles in the class. There's a lot of offensive tackles who are going to be in that 10 to 20 range. I think that for Max Crosby's age, by the time the Raiders are good again, it'll likely be past his prime. He'll likely be in his 32, 33-year-old years. And at that point, he's getting worse at that point. So if you're not getting like Khalil Mack level value when he goes straight from the Raiders, you could potentially hold off. Khalil Mack obviously was much younger, a couple years younger when he was traded to the Bears in comparison to Max Crosby at this moment in time. Max Crosby coming off a torn meniscus as well. But I think it's a decision that if you're able to get back in the first round and get one of those high end offensive linemen or one of those high end wide receivers, I think you do that as the Raiders because they have the cap space. I think, if anything, it makes more sense to address the offensive line in the draft, try to get back into the first round by all means necessary, and then you can pay like an Alec Pierce or one of the other wide receivers who are going to be hitting the open market this year to kind of give Mendoza a little bit more support offensively.
Yeah, I agree. I think you do need to go out and get a wide receiver. I mean, because Ashton Genty, like that's your answer in the backfield. Then a guy like Mendoza is gonna definitely use Genty, especially early on, as he's tries to find his footing. But having a top wide receiver is essential as well. I think with Max Crosby, my take is trade him. Why? Yes, he's very, very good, but this is the most amount of value that you will get from him. And the thing is that this Raiders team is not a Super Bowl team tomorrow, right? But if you trade him to a team that is trying to get into the Super Bowl, like the Patriots again, and a team that has a lot of assets, like the Patriots, uh, you could get a lot of value from him, and that value you can use to build up the offense more. And defensive linemen, as good as Max Crosby is, they're slightly replaceable. In the sense that you don't need a bright shining star in order to have a good defense in many ways. You could have just a collaborative defense that works well together.
100%. Next question that I had. So obviously, there's a lot of quarterback situations that will need monitoring, and you just saw Sam Darnold win a Super Bowl. We've seen success of reclamation quarterbacks. That's kind of been the trend recently, where teams will pick up a quarterback that didn't really have a fit somewhere else. Geno Smith was that for Seattle for a couple of years before he went to the Raiders, and now he has really fallen off. But we've been seeing that more often now, the Kirk Cousins type of thing, where quarterbacks bounce around and you see them find a fit, and it's great. You have guys like Mac Jones, you have Tua, who's likely going to be potentially a casualty or get traded. Kyler Murray is the one that I'm the most intrigued with. You have Malik Willis as well, Davian. So, Davian, what are your thoughts on the QB carousel? Kyler Murray, to me, in my mind, just seems like a Jets type of quarterback, or even like the Vikings if they're looking for someone to compete with JJ
Yeah.
McCarthy for the starting job. So, what are your thoughts kind of on the QB situation as we enter this offseason? And you don't need to spend too much time on this, but if you have any good matches in mind, what you think would be some matches for some of these guys?
Yeah. Ooh, tough. All right. Kyler Murray, I would say the his best bet would be to go to the Jets. Malik Willis, Cardinals. And I think that would be like those top two. Russell Wilson, the Dolphins. Jameis Winston, I think stays with the Giants. That's my kind of high level take. Rodgers goes back to the Steelers, um, because I think that's the one. I don't think he'd really play for any other organization. And
And
because
Mike
McCarthy's
McCarthy is now the head coach. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
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 Yeah, yeah. So Yeah, I think those are. Is there any other players that big QB players are missing, Rafi?
Did you say Malik Willis?
Yeah, I said Malik Willis to the Cardinals. I think honestly,
Okay.
I think he has what the. I think what the. I think the Cardinals could build around him. I think he showed a lot of good flashes, and I feel like he's very moldable. Versus Kyler Murray, I think has his game already kind of set, and the Jets are a team that I think can build around that pretty well. If that makes sense.
Absolutely, that does make sense. David, any other questions that you have?
Um, I mean, what do the Dolphins do? I mean, Tua has been buns. Uh, Tyreek Hill wants out. So I mean, you just hired Jeff Halfley, a defensive minded coach, and I think with Tyreek Hill, you end up having to trade him. I mean, he is a $30 million cap hit. You got to get rid of that. Tua has been playing really bad, honestly. And I think if you're the Dolphins and you're looking at heading into this draft and you're in the second round and you see a guy like Ty Simpson potentially, you might go out and take him. And so I think that there's some QBs in this draft that are very good, and some of these teams need to go after them. Yes, I understand that next year's draft class is going to be incredible from head to toe, but there's a lot of guys here. You have the picks right now. Take it. A third round pick is fine to spend on a QB. Even a second round pick. And if the guy doesn't flare out, it's okay because you're not. It could be worse, right? But at least give it a shot now. Don't wait because you don't know what's going to happen. And tanking is pretty difficult when there's so many other teams tanking, and you don't know what QB is going to be good next year, because we've seen like massive fall offs. I think about Spencer Rattler, Rafi. I mean, everyone thought guaranteed first round pick, decides to stay for another year. Okay, fine, he'll just go. He's going back. Really weird move, but hey, who knows? Next year he'll still be in first round, and he wasn't. He was terrible. So Rafi, what do you think? If you're the Dolphins, are you drafting a QB right now?
No, none of the quarterbacks I think are worth taking. Ty Simpson, I think, is the next quarterback after Fernando Mendoza. And if you want to just focus on the first half of a season, I can understand why you would take him in the second or third round, take a chance on him. But Davian, that back half of his season at Alabama was horrendous. It was really, really bad. And I have never seen a quarterback as have such a fall off in season. Lenore Sellers had flashes, didn't really wind up panning out. Trinidad Chambliss said his stock kept going up, and then he's like, "No, I want to go back to school. I don't want to go to the Jets." And I'm like, "Dude, you do realize that if you don't want to go to the Jets, there's other teams that can potentially take you." And
Yeah.
bro was just like, "No, I'm not going to the NFL draft." That made no sense. Dante Moore also dodging the Jets. It makes no sense to me. I get NIL, but that stuff just makes no sense to me. But if you're a team taking a quarterback that's not the Raiders, I wouldn't spend like a third or fourth round pick. Like that'd probably be the highest that I'd be taking a quarterback in this year's draft. I don't think really anyone is worth even like a second round pick. Ty Simpson if you want, and that's even a stretch. If I had multiple second round picks and he was around like the 50 to 60 range, I would consider taking him, but I wouldn't take him any
That's
higher
right.
than that. And I would rather send a fifth round pick to the Cardinals or a fourth round pick for Kyler Murray than take one of these younger quarterbacks. I know Kyler Murray is on a quarterback deal. Obviously, if you're taking a quarterback in the fourth, fifth round, that contract's going to be really, really cheap. But if you want, take a quarterback in the fourth, fifth round, and then also trade like a day 3 pick for Kyler Murray too. See what happens. Cardinals are likely going to eat a decent amount of that money anyways for Kyler Murray, so you're not going to get him at his full contract. So I I'm still high on Kyler Murray in the sense that I think that there is a place for him as a starting quarterback in the NFL. It's just a matter of if someone could bring the best out of him. We've seen it before. We saw with Daniel Jones even this past year with the Colts, where if you put the right quarterback in the right situation, they can succeed. And I still
Yeah.
think that's the case with Kyler Murray because he did have some really good seasons with the Arizona Cardinals, as much to the grin of our old former podcast host Theodore, who would say, "Nope, he was terrible regardless." But any other questions, even? I guess one final question that I had: Trey Hendrickson. Do you think that he's finally going to be freed from Cincinnati, or do you think that he's going to be franchise tagged and forced to another year of being in the state of Ohio, which is a crime in itself.
I'll keep it short. He's screwed. Good luck in Ohio. I mean, that's a terrible organization, the Bengals. I really think they really just need to build up their defense, build up the offensive line. But yeah, I think he's screwed.
Yeah, and he's really the only guy on their defense anyway. So if you get rid of him, then it's going to be hard to find a replacement when your entire salary cap is tied into three players, a quarterback, and two wide receivers. Obviously, really good players, but yeah, not a great situation. And I think at some point you kind of just gotta cut bait and just say, you know what, things aren't working. If anything, you franchise tag him and then you move him because it's not good to have someone who's very disgruntled, especially a guy like Trey Hendrickson, who by all accounts is a really nice person, has given the Bengals consistently the benefit of the doubt. At this point, you're creating a toxic environment if you franchise tag him and plan on keeping him. I would You're still going to get good value for him if you franchise tag him and trade him. So if I'm the Bengals, I franchise tag him and then I trade him, and then you kind of clean your hands from that. You're done with that saga, and then obviously your defense is going to be worse. So you're going to have to figure that out. But I think you can still get a first round pick for him if you tag him, and if a team can work out an extension with him, then I think you could potentially get good value from him still. So he's still rather young. I think he's around 29, 30 years old. So you can still get good value for him. I think the Bengals, it'd be wise to take whatever you can get for him if it's a first, second round pick, and then also use those picks then to upgrade your defense, upgrade your offensive line as well. So that makes the most sense for me. David, anything else before we close the show?
Drake May. It's all.
Spoken like a true Drake May supporter. That'll do it for this edition of the Benchwarmer Sports Podcast. We hope you enjoyed. Let us know what your guys' thoughts were on the Super Bowl, and also let us know as well your thoughts on the offseason questions we discussed. And if there's any other offseason questions, because I'm sure we missed a bunch. What happens with the Bears and DJ Moore? What happens? Obviously, we didn't really hit too much. Patriots, what do they address this offseason? Do they look to build up the offensive line more? What wide receivers do they look for? Do they go after an Alec Pierce? There's so many questions.
T. Higgins.
Begin to make stupid hires. Who knows? Are the Steelers going to bring Aaron Rodgers back, even though that's to their detriment? We'll see what winds up happening, but I can guarantee you that we will be here on this podcast to discuss things as they happen in the week order, because we don't do podcasts right when things happen, breaking news podcasts typically. But anyways, we will be talking about it on this podcast, so be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel as well, and we'll see you on the next one. See ya.
Peace.